So we're going to go on a bit of a journey. We're going to go on a bit of a journey, and it's a model of reality, and it comes with my first slide. And this first slide here, it looks like a bit of an old-fashioned slide. It is actually an image from the Battle of Trafalgar, and this is something called the Blindside Revolution I'm about to share with you. And we're not just going to talk about what's happening in the world around us and put a model to it. What we're also going to do is we're going to take a bit of a journey ourselves in the next 15 minutes, which is going to see if we can stretch a little bit beyond what the other great speakers that we've had have laid as a bit of a foundation. So you heard Marissa talk, and also Lisa talk, about being good enough. It's like, what's the step beyond being good enough, right? What is the step beyond being enough? And is it being more than enough? It's like, what is that next step? When Marissa says something like, be familiar with the unfamiliar, or when Anil says something like, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, what is that next step that stretches us beyond simply being enough? And this is a very interesting image, because it's an image of Napoleon's entire fleet at Trafalgar being decimated by Lord Nelson. And if you start with the assumption that Napoleon didn't know what he was doing, right? If you start the assumption, which is like, he couldn't figure it out, he was going too slow, you could miss the lesson altogether of what happened here, that he got blindsided. If you look at the biggest companies in the world right now, and if you decide that the reason the education system is the way it is because the people running it just really don't have a clue, or if you decide that the reason that the pharmaceutical industry, or the fact that our energy, or all of these others is simply because people are evil or that they're bad, we might miss altogether what's actually happening. Because I have seen entrepreneurs blindside large companies, but I've also seen entrepreneurs, just like you and me, who ourselves have got blindsided, smart and as genius as we are, by missing something that's coming from a different direction. So what I'd love to do is actually put a context to this in a way that we go on a journey, but we end up in a place where we become even more than we could imagine within 15 minutes. Would you be up for that? All right, okay, let's do this. All right, so first of all, here is a nice little image about what a blindsiding actually is. Here's Superman getting knocked over by a big bull. He didn't even see it coming. What is it? A blindside is something that comes from the side. If you think about American football, the blindside is not just coming from the side, it's coming from the side you're least expecting. It's the side you can't see. You're blinded by it. We all have a blind spot, and it's happening all around us at the moment, this blind spot. You can see the news headlines, and you'll hear of companies like General Motors going bankrupt, Kodak filing for bankruptcy. You'll hear people talk about these and saying, here's a perfect example of a dinosaur or a Goliath that gets knocked over, but you'll miss the story altogether. Because see, I believe everyone's a genius, which means I also believe that even those large corporations are run by geniuses, that our institutions, even our governments, have got geniuses that had to have earned the right somehow to be at that level. How could they be getting it so wrong? What's happening? So with this whole kind of like strew of new things happening, Radio Shack got created and blindsided the entire industry through electronics, and it itself has now got blindsided and gone bankrupt. You've got things like Encyclopedia Britannica, which is where I got all of my knowledge when I was younger, or at least up to B's. I read the A and the B, and then I ran out of time. And the best way to explain it is with this little image. Because this is what happened at the Battle of Trafalgar all those years ago. This is 210 years ago. And what happened was at that point, there was a particular way that you went into battle. Not just the artillery, but also if you were a fleet, you would go into battle as one large front. And the reason you had to do that was they didn't have the internet, they didn't have radio communication, they had to have a signal ship at the front, which is where the admiral was. And he would, by what that ship did, everyone followed. So the only way for everyone to see the ship was you'd have that ship up the front, and everyone would follow like this. And of course, what that meant was whoever was the strongest fleet would be the one that would usually win. At the Battle of Trafalgar, all the rules changed, because what happened was Lord Nelson decided, given that he had such a smaller fleet, he had much smaller boats, he only had half the men, that if he went with that, he would lose straight away. So instead what he did is he totally surprised Napoleon's troops by coming in two columns. This is why Nelson's column is called Nelson's column. He had these two columns which were coming at speed, directly blindsiding the entire fleet. And of course, the fleet was there, Napoleon's fleet was there, trying to, what were they going to do? They couldn't shoot because they were coming so fast. They went right towards the ones here, and as they went past and actually hit these boats and went through the boats, those boats sank. They just started shooting out the side as they went by. They then curved around. They came back. They kept on doing this until they decimated the entire fleet. The entire fleet got blindsided. There was no way, even with their amazing artillery and all those people, they could actually beat them. And as a result of that, that was the pivotal point in that battle, and also in the entire Napoleonic War. Now, this is something that's happening now today, because you're coming at right angles, and you're coming at right angles in a way that you're seeing things differently from the ones who are actually there looking to attack things the way they used to be. So what does that mean in terms of what we're doing within our industries right now? What does it mean when in the last 6 months, the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, the likes of Richard Branson, the likes of Elon Musk suddenly say, we're going to connect the whole world together? This all happened from October, November last year. There was this graph which showed that everyone until 6 months ago actually believed that by the time we got to the year 2020, we would have 2/3 of the world's population online. And simply by now having the likes of Elon Musk saying we're going to actually have satellites that are going to give access, or whether it's Mark Zuckerberg saying we're going to have drones over Africa that are going to give everyone internet access, you can see it's got revised up. This is one of Peter Diamandis' graphs. It got revised up from 2020, 66% of the world's population at 5 billion online and connected, to now altered 2020, 100%, and we just added another 2 billion within 6 months that we now project will be online within the next 5 years. And that means that we now have this entire new power to be able to impact the world in ways that before were coming, but gradually, and suddenly become totally accelerated. These are all from the last couple of months. This is January. SpaceX got $1 billion from Google and Fidelity, so they're all connecting with each other. Apple's now saying they're getting into the car industry as well. You've got Amazon who's getting into drones. So what's happening that you've got these different disruptions that are actually taking place? You've got Elon Musk, who had Tesla that everyone thought was a car company, now creating batteries to power entire homes, which means that he's going to disrupt the entire energy industry. And this happened just in the last month. So what's going on here? And if you have a camera, you might want to take a photo of the next 2 slides, because what we have here are the top 12 industries that have made up our entire industrial revolution. You might be there thinking you want to disrupt education. You might be there thinking you want to disrupt the environment, the way that we're going about communication. Whatever it is you're thinking of disrupting, have you noticed the people who actually are disrupting it almost always are never from the industry? Simon Khan with Khan Academy is disrupting education. He was never a teacher. He's a stock market trader. Elon Musk is now getting into cars, energy. That's not where he started at all. We look at every one person who's coming in, they're coming sideways, just like Lord Nelson, where they're not coming into that industry. They're coming sideways, not from an industry, but from a technology. So the difference of the Industrial Revolution, which was based on vertical industries, these are the big ones: entertainment, communication, education, transport, military, medical, construction. These are the ones that we have seen our parents go through, and then we were educated into ourselves. They're all getting disrupted horizontally by 12 technologies. Why is this important? Because if you're still focusing at what industry you're looking to get into, you might miss altogether the fact that the people coming in and disrupting that industry are doing it at right angles as a result of a technology. Here we have sharing and sourcing from crowd leverage. We've got artificial intelligence. We've got real-time translation that's now happening that gives you global reach. We've got the Internet of Things. When you look at a company like Mindvalley, we had this conversation yesterday with some of the team at Mindvalley. It's like, are we an education company? Are we a marketing? It isn't about the industry. Technology itself is not an industry. It is a pathway to disruption by coming in at right angles. And just to give you an example of that, here's Apple. And you can see that Apple started by disrupting 15 years ago the entertainment industry. The iPod came out. Music got taken over as a result of their ability to use mobile and their ability to use artificial intelligence. Communication then happened with the phone. Then they got into education with all of the apps that they have. Now they've got into financial with Apple Money. Now they're getting into transport with Apple Cars. They're disrupting one industry after another like dominoes as a result of going right through at right angles with these different technologies. Here's another example, Amazon, where Amazon has done the same thing. They've disrupted these different industries without any expertise in the industry, and they've actually picked a number of other ones like 3D printing or like space travel, which is something Jeff Bezos is involved in. Here's Google. These are the modern-day Nelsons, and they are coming through this one by one, knocking over these different industries. And you can see the next ones are military, medical. Any industry that you're thinking about that you think should change, it's happening already, and we're all part of it too. The question is, what part do you want to play in this picture? And it isn't about which industry do you want to disrupt, it's about which is the technology that you actually want to focus most at. Here's the biggest problem. Our entire education system is still based on preparing our children to join the industrial age, which means they're not equipped for any of this at all unless we're the ones that actually support them. It's largely what we're doing at Green School. It's what you could be doing as well. I need everyone to do this. Everyone take out a piece of paper, and I need to test your drawing skills. Do your best job at drawing something that looks a bit like a potato, right? Astuti, here's Astuti's potato. She's got little blackheads in her potato. By the way, this is a bit of a trick little image here, because this is a bit of a subconscious exercise. What you have just drawn is, in fact, your brain. Please turn to the person next to you, point at your potato, and say, "This is my brain. This is my brain." Okay. All right, got your brain? Okay. So, so why have I asked you to draw your brain? Because did you know, back at the beginning of the education system, 100 years ago, they actually thought the brain was like a library. They thought it was like a library, which means the best thing to do with the brain is fill it with things. So the first thing was, it's a library, let's fill it with things. And at that point, everyone knew about libraries, and so the whole education system today is still about fill your brain with things. Fill it with things as a full, do an exam, blah, full. Okay, you can go, right? So the whole thing is built that way, right? Until about 30 years ago, when we as adults started realizing, you know what? Maybe it's not like a library, because, there's some people when they don't actually have all that knowledge, and they can still do so much, and they started likening the brain to a computer. Maybe it's a computer. Maybe it's not about what we put in it. Maybe it's about how we reprogram it. And so we ended up with all sorts of different tools, like neuro-linguistic programming, even meditation. It's like, how do we erase it and clear it and start again, just like a computer? And you can look at it that way, and it's definitely better than think of it like a library. But what if you did a third thing, which was to think of it like a radio? Everyone just put a little antenna on your potato, picking up radio waves. Imagine it was like a radio. And imagine that you had a purpose in life, and that purpose was like a radio station. So you might be on a station at the moment where it's the wrong station. You might be in static, you can't hear anything, and instead of trying to reprogram the brain, it's just about retuning the dial on your radio, and then ching, suddenly you get into that shift. This is what we mean by paradigm shift. And this is really this next slide, and what this next slide is about, is the paradigm shift is one in which the Industrial Revolution was focused at 12 profit streams based on those 12 industries. What's actually happening is the technological revolution is not based on profit streams, it's based on purpose streams. And you'll find that all of the people that you admire most out there who are harnessing technologies, the way they could figure out which industries they should go into was not by saying, is this something that makes me more profit? Is this something that serves my purpose? So think about that, because I'm going to give you an opportunity to see what these 12 are. These are the 12 profit streams. They're exactly the same as the 12 industries. So you can see, every one of them is looking to hold on to whatever profit they're making within that industry. But have a look at what happens when you switch this to the 12 purpose streams. Look at the first four: entertainment, communication, education, financial. Once you get to the 12 purpose streams, the first one turns into celebrating artisanship, which is largely what Mindvalley is about and what Awesomeness Fest is about. 100% free online access, which is about access for everyone, which is what the likes of Google and Facebook are now doing. Education and equality for all, because the two of them are linked. Income equality and the end of poverty, which is a purpose that's actually very different from the financial industry. The next three: freedom and mobility as opposed to transport, peace and security, 100% free global healthcare. Anyone that you admire in the world has aligned themselves to one or a maximum of two or three of these different purpose streams, and they've connected up with others as well. You can see there, you've got local sustainable production as opposed to manufacturing. Instead of construction, you've got green smart homes, renewable energy, sustainable environment, natural organic food instead of the agriculture industry. We're seeing this happen, and entrepreneurs are the ones stepping in and aligning their purpose with others as well.